Wi-Fi, which was a passion from the beginning, coming from my wireless optics.
Yes. So what was the inspiration in terms of what gave you this vision at that particular point? Is it the experience that you had that you have talked about, the presentation at the UN that you had with the guy? Is it the Rukas guy? Uh, or how did the vision form in terms of this is what I want to do? I want to provide this Wi-Fi, this telephony, and how did it form?
In life, things add up. Yeah, you don't have to see the end most of the time. Many times you can't see the end. Um, I remember once when I worked at Dimension Data, we used to be picked in town with a small van and then taken to the office. And I remember once we us discussing our then MD. You know, he was very young. Of course, we were much younger, but he was very young. I think he was 34 or something. And I remember saying, I think when I will be his age, I want to at least have a startup by then. I didn't really know what it was. And I remember guys just laughing, just relax, Eunice. Life is never that tough. Startups are for people who at least have some capital. And based on where I was coming from, it was obviously clear that it was very hard for me to raise capital. Yeah. And I put that on a hash tone. But yeah, by the time I was 34, definitely Talinda had been born. Yeah.
Then there's the issue of now that capital you are talking about. It is hard for many businesses to begin because of raising some money, maybe for an office, to be able to have one person or two work for them. How did it work out for you, and how were you able to raise the required minimum to be able to take off?
Okay, so what I would say, I think shoestringing is not a good way of doing business, and I would not recommend it to anybody. And I think most people should try their best to raise money early in their businesses. I think coming from a perspective of listening to people like Jack Ma of Alibaba, he did very many businesses, they all failed. The reason Alibaba succeeded, in my evaluation, based on as much as I know about Alibaba, is because he raised money very early into that business, unlike all the others that failed that he had started. And when we talk about money, I think it's a very complex discussion, because what ends up happening is that capital is always a very difficult conversation. So for someone like me, this business I have been shoestringing since forever. I mean, we are now 10 years old. From 2011 to date is 10 years exactly. We've been shoestringing for 10 years. So bootstrapping, it is sell, collect, spend, sell, collect, spend. And it's not a good way of doing business. However, it's the best way to learn. So if Jack Ma had not learned using by his other business, I think China, was it China Daily or China Online, and his translation business, if he had not learned the hard way, it would have been very hard for him to even raise money or imagine raising it. So the learning process is very important. And I think we started the business more of with my husband, who was working. When I left employment, he was left working, and he supported me in all possible ways from scratch. And being a woman, you're a bit luckier. Somebody else is working, the rent will be paid.
Yeah.
Even if whatever happens, the rent will be paid. At least your basic are kind of taken care of. So as you go to risk everything else, you're now without a pay. I was earning pretty well by the time I started this business. Now you are at zero pay as you start. All I had was a computer and a car that my husband helped fuel at that time. And I could knock doors and see customers, and a few people started trusting in us. I remember the first customer we got was an order of 250,000, which we framed. And the customer is still our customer to date. And it was a telephony, an SMB telephony deal. And it was a struggle to get this kind of deals. And now you've got the deal. How do you service it? It was not a lot of money, but how do you service it? Of course, your bank has not seen much transactions. They have just been seeing the basic ones. They can't lend you money. So we struggled through it. We serviced the order. We got paid. We paid the suppliers back. And that was really the beginning.
How did you struggle through it?
Oh, I think my husband took a loan from the circle, and yeah, that's how it began. Yeah.
There is that element where you have talked about living work. How did that happen?
One day, my friend Pina had a wedding on 3rd March of 2011, and I went to her wedding. I went early, so I spent a lot of time at the beach, and I was seated just, I am a nature person. So when I'm overwhelmed, or when I want to make a major decision, I will go hiking, or I will go to a rainforest or the sea or something.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I decided it's time. And when I came back to Nairobi, my husband had not come for the wedding. I told him it's time. And the following morning, I wrote the letter.
What was the build-up? Is it something that happened? Was something pushing?
Continuous.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
of course. Like I said, since high school, I knew I was gonna have a Tirikwa. So it has not happened yet. It's gonna happen. So the drive, it never stops. There's always something pushing you. When are you going to do this? When will time come?
Yeah.
Before then, we had started a company. It's an interesting story for another day. It's how I met my husband. We were starting a company with a few friends, and
Yes,
he was one of the people that the other friends had called. And we ended up only starting it, 3 of us. So we had started a company that did homestays, which is accommodation in other people's homes. It failed in between because we were all working, and it was all our first jobs, and that company was very demanding. You would host somebody, and then at midnight they call you and they tell you, I want you to transfer me to another house. I can't stay in this one. And it was quite a success profitably, but it was requiring a lot of operational time from us, and we were all working, and we were on our first jobs, and we didn't know how our careers were going to pan out, so we decided to close it. But now this time I was like, I don't want that to happen again, and I want to commit my whole self to it, and it was now time. Yeah.